Good evening. Welcome to the big story. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Gretchen Ho.
And I'm Shawn Yao.
Tonight's big stories. A House panel slashes nearly 1.3 billion pesos off the Office of the Vice President's budget for 2025, reallocating that to the DOH and DSWD.
The Vice President's father, former President Rodrigo Duterte, was also the hot topic at another House gathering today. A Bucor executive says it was the former president who ordered the killing of 3 Chinese drug lords in a Davao prison back in 2016.
And a senior Chinese military official says that Beijing will crush any foreign incursions into the South China Sea, just as Manila and Beijing conclude another round of talks on the disputed waters.
From 2.037 billion pesos to 733.2 million pesos, the House Committee on Appropriations has recommended slashing the Office of the Vice President's budget for 2025. Now, that's nearly 1.3 billion pesos lopped off from the original budget requested by Vice President Sara Duterte for next year. According to Appropriations Committee Senior Vice Chairperson Stella Kimbo, they decided to reallocate the funds to the social programs of other agencies. Specifically, the cut funds will go to 2 things: DSWD's program called Assistance to Individuals in Crisis Situations, or AICS, and the DOH's Medical Assistance to Indigent and Financially Incapacitated Patient Program, or MIFIP. Lawmakers criticized the low utilization or spending of the OVP social programs budget. One of the reasons they decided to take out that much.
Napakaraming social programs na ini-implement, tila redundant. Bakit merong sariling medical assistance program, meron naman tayong MIFIP sa DOH? Bakit merong sariling burial assistance? Meron naman tayong AIX sa DSWD. Ang sabi namin is, why don't we just transfer the funds for financial assistance to the national government agencies na subok na? It doesn't mean na mababawasan ang kanyang pagtulong.
Now, on the other side of it, the money was taken from the following items from the OVP budget. From supplies, 200 million pesos. From personal services for consultants, over 92 million pesos. From financial assistance, over 947 million pesos. From rent or lease expenses, over 48 million pesos. And from utility expenses, over 5 million pesos. Now, the rent item includes the rental for 10 satellite offices of the OVP.
Minabuti po naming balik po siya sa levels ng 2022 na kung saan ang Vice President natin noon only maintained a single office. Bahala na po sila doon. Kung magka-cancel po ba sila ng contracts, kung sila po ba ay magte-take in ng donations, that is completely up to them how they will implement or execute the budget.
The proposal to cut the OVP budget first surfaced after Duterte had furious exchanges with lawmakers during her budget's first hearing on August 27. Then, she didn't attend the second hearing this week, nor did she send representatives. However, the decision is not yet final. The House Appropriations Committee clarified that the budget cut is still subject to amendments in the plenary. Once the General Appropriations Bill is approved, it will be sent to the Senate. After the Senate approves the bill, both lower and upper houses will convene in a bicameral conference committee to finalize the version, which will then be sent to the palace for the President's signature.
Malinaw po na napakarami pong tao na involved dito po sa pag-aproba ng budget. Hindi lang po 2 tao. And of course, after the budget is approved, alam naman po natin ang budget execution is solely by the executive.
Regardless of the future of the OVP's budget, Duterte has already said that their work will continue no matter the amount of funding they receive.
Handa kami, handa ako sa Office of the Vice President na magtrabaho kahit walang budget. Kayang-kaya namin na magtrabaho kahit walang budget.
Plenary debates on the proposed national budget for 2025 will begin September 16 and is expected to end, or are expected to end, by September 25.
All right, let's dive into this issue a little bit more. Joining us tonight for some insights, let me bring in House Majority Leader and Zamboanga's 2nd District Representative, Congressman Manuel Jose Manix Dalipe. Good evening, Congressman. Thanks for taking time out to talk to us tonight.
Yes, good evening, ladies. Thank you for having me. Good evening.
Congressman, obviously, our top story today is the OVP budget cut. I wonder if you could give us a better sense of what the discussions were like behind closed doors, and how, I mean, we know how much is being taken off her budget, or the proposal to take off her budget, but also, we also know that from Stella Kimbo that it was a unanimous decision. But what were the questions like? What were the discussions like?
Well, I was following the deliberations of the Committee on Appropriations. The House members, or the members of the Committee on Appropriations, had questions which they would want to clarify, specifically on certain issues which they received notice, which is these are the notice of disallowances issued by the Commission on Audit. So the members of the Committee on Appropriation, as how I understand it, would want to be clarified why the Office of the Vice President was issued such disallowances. So even the sponsor of the measure in plenary, Congressman Adyong, also raised some issues or reservations that he might have a hard time in defending or sponsoring and defending the budget of the Office of the Vice President, considering that the questions raised by the members of the Committee on Appropriations were not answered. So maybe when they met to give out the committee report, the members of the Committee on Appropriation decided to go on a safe path wherein the other measures or budget for 2025 of the Office of the Vice President, particularly those which seems to be a duplication of the function of another agency like DSWD and other agencies, they just place it there. So it will be easier for the Committee on Appropriations to defend and sponsor the budget of the Office of the Vice President in plenary session.
And actually, a couple of days ago, you made headlines for saying that she may be liable for graft if she is unable to explain adequately how she spent those confidential funds in 2022. And we sat up and took notice of that, because actually this is the first time we're hearing a ranking House member drop the word graft. In the past, it was usually coming from the Makabayan bloc or the minority bloc. How serious are you viewing the situation?
Well, she has to explain it, because if you look at the points raised in that issue, she has to explain on how she spent those funds. Because if you will not be able to explain, there's only one way to go. That's a draft case. So there's only one interpretation in that. So we were hoping that the Vice President would be able to explain her side. And we were hoping that since she appeared during the first hearing, she would again be back the second time to explain the issues raised against her office. So, but with that, I think we will just wait on the Office of the Vice President or the Vice President herself to explain. Unless if she'll not be able to explain, as what a lot of House members sense, that it will now be a very big problem for her, because it will boil down to a graft case.
Congressman Dalipe, do you think this might set a precedent? Because I noticed that every so often during budget deliberations, these COA notices, these audit notices are often brought up. Would another department be at danger of suffering the same fate as the OVP? for having some, dubious audits or not having passed audits?
Just like in any budget process that we undergo every year, the executive budget is subject to scrutiny. So each and every House member would want to see that what we appropriated previously in the previous year and what the department or agency is asking for the succeeding year is proper. And since this is taxpayers' money and it is the job of the House of Representatives, it's our constitutional duty, it's our constitutional mandate to see and check and scrutinize the proposed budget. So it is not abnormal, but it's just but normal that when members of the House of Representatives would always bring out some of these notice of disallowances because it's part of the process, trying to check whether the funds given to a department, funds given to an agency, was used in accordance to the purpose of how it should be spent when they presented it to Congress of when they presented it to the House of Representatives on the purpose for the use of such funds. But so when House members will get notice of disallowance, they will ask. No, it's just but normal to ask why funds given to a specific agency or department were flagged down by the Commission on Audit. So was there something wrong with the procuring agency or department that such notice of disallowance was flagged by the Commission on Audit? So it's part of the normal annual routine of the budget process wherein all issues will be raised by any member, and it's a right of any member to raise any issue with particular to a agency or a department which is coming back again asking for a budget for the succeeding year.
Congressman, if the Vice President is unable to explain the notice of disallowance by the COA, does that mean that apart from filing a graft case, that an impeachment complaint might be in the offing?
Well, unless the thing she did is an impeachable offense, then it might go to that. But we'll see. I do not want to preempt anything. I do not even know of any impeachment complaint filed in the House. So we'll wait if it will boil down to that or she'll be facing a graft charge that will be filed by no other than the Commission on Audit. So we'll wait. So I do not. I will wait for things to develop and see by then if indeed it would
Congressman?
merit or warrant a impeachment complaint or a graft case.
Okay, let's not get ahead of ourselves with that. Everyone we have asked from the House has said that there are no talks to impeach the Vice President. But the reason I was asking you earlier about President is because the Vice President has claimed that what's going on with her budget hearing, with her budget deliberation, is really politicizing the budget. What would you have to say with regard to that?
Well, the entire budget process is really part of a political activity because decisions will have to be made. Decisions have to be made whether a specific department needs more funding to help the people. So it's part of the political process. Political decisions are made every year on which departments, on which agencies would get a bigger slice of the pie compared to other agencies of the government. In fact, the political uh, process starts when the executive department would decide on the political direction they wish for the country. So when they present the executive budget, it was based on political policies uh, uh, brought by the leader of the executive department or leader of this country, the president of the Philippines. So everything is, I would say, part of political decision-making process. So everything, you know, politics is present everywhere. So
Congressman,
decisions have to be made
taking a look
using
at
also political political uh, opinions of members of whether the House of Representatives or the Senate when we pass the budget.
Congressman, taking a look at the budget, the biggest slash that happened was with the financial assistance, and you explained that already. There are certain duplications with functions of other agencies, but the other items are related to the functions of her office. Isn't this tantamount to downsizing the OVP? I know they have 10 satellite offices all over the country, but how did you arrive at the numbers? 200 million, slashing it off, supplies, and 92 million from professional services. I mean, can you explain to us these items, supplies, professional services?
Well, I think the one who should, the cuts for the office of the vice president may be explained by the members of the Committee on Appropriation when we go on plenary sponsorship and debate. Because it is them, the members of the Committee on Appropriation, whom issues were raised. Particularly, I think there were issues about how these different offices are being rented out and how some members or members of the Committee on Appropriation feel that they are not worth the rental payment. So with regards to funds which are for social services, the members of the Committee on Appropriations which I talked to say that why not give it to the department or agency in charge for social services, and the vice president can just get funds for social services from the SWD. So we'll see. That is in the process, in our budget process. We are now just starting, so nothing is yet final. We will wait for the committee report of the Committee on Appropriation be presented on second reading, which is the General Appropriations Bill in plenary session.
Right. Okay.
So we have already made the schedule on the plenary sponsorship and debates of the 2025 proposed budget for the plenary. So we'll see how it will go on how the other members, particularly members belonging to the majority bloc or the minority bloc, will react
Yeah.
in the debates
Right.
when it comes to the proposal of the Committee on Appropriation in the cuts in the office of the Vice
Right.
President.
Okay. Congressman Delipe, I understand you've also urged COA to submit their final report on the OVP's budget, specifically on the notices of disallowances. I wonder if have they given you a timeline? Do you know when it's going to be submitted?
I'm still waiting for the reply, but we would want to have it the soonest because we want to be guided. Like for me, example, as the head of the majority bloc, I would want to be guided and also with the members of the majority, did the Committee on Appropriations do the right thing in transferring some of the funds of the Office of the Vice President to the other departments? So did the Committee on Appropriations do the right thing by trying to adjust and presenting a different budget proposal? So that report from the Commission on Audit is very vital. It is very important to us. If the Commission on Audit will be able to present it to us at the soonest possible time, we would appreciate it very much before we render a decision
Right.
on plenary on
Right.
what to do with her budget.
Yeah, and here's hoping they're watching. Last question, Congressman. Senator Bato de la Rosa says this issue might cause some tension between the lower house and the upper house, especially when it comes to the BICAM. Is this something you're worried about?
Well, the House of Representatives and the Senate would every year come to an agreement. As always, there is a BICAM part to this because the House and the Senate would have different proposals on how to present the 2025 budget. But as always, as expected, and I am very much confident that the two chambers, the Senate of the Philippines and the House of Representatives, will eventually come to agreement and will be able to resolve any differences in the two different proposals for the 2025 budget. And as every year, the Senate and the House will come to an agreement.
Okay, and we look forward to monitoring the plenary debates as well. We're going to have to leave that there. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, House Majority Leader Congressman Manix Delipe.
Okay, let's move on now from the Vice President to her father, the former President Rodrigo Duterte. One witness from today's House Quad Committee hearing just did a 180 and confirmed that it was indeed Rodrigo Digong Duterte who ordered the killing of 3 Chinese drug lords back in 2016. Let's bring in Marian Enriquez for the latest on that hearing, which is still ongoing as we speak. Hi, Maan.
Hi, Shawn. Yes, your right, still ongoing. As you can see behind me, the interpellation is still ongoing here at the House of Representatives regarding the extrajudicial killings during the Duterte drug war. And right now, we've learned a lot. No, you can recall that 2 weeks ago, Senior Superintendent from Bucor, the warden of the Davao Prison and Penal Farm, back in 2016, denied all of the accusations of the 2 PDLs who killed the 3 drug lords there, that the Chinese drug lords, about the murder. And he said that he has nothing to do about that. He has no knowledge about that. But just last week, remember when he retracted all of his statements and said that there was actually a call that he received from former CIDG officer Regina Garma and also, the former PCSO general manager, ordering him that there will be an operation inside the prison farm, and that she says that palagpasin na lang or hayaan na lang. And just today, we learned about how Gerardo Padilla actually really confirmed about receiving a call from President or former President Rodrigo Duterte after the killing of the 3 drug lords, congratulating him and saying, quote, good job well done, pero grabe yung ginawang dinuguan. Shawn.
Maan, we have established these connections, right? And I do remember from the last hearing that Gerardo Padilla did request for an executive session, and they did go into that executive session. Do you have any idea if this was what he told congressmen in there?
Yes, exactly. Shawn, that was the content or what the executive session was all about. The confirmation of Gerardo Padilla about that event during that August 2016, what happened when the murder of the 3 Chinese drug lords there in the Davao Prison Penal Farm. And we learned that he actually really confirmed about receiving a call from the former President Rodrigo Duterte. Shawn.
Maan, 2 people have been cited in contempt today, former Police Colonel Garma, as well as a former Pala spokesman, Attorney Roque. What do we know about these 2 contempt orders, and what are the logistics there? Where are they going to be staying?
So Garma has been cited for contempt for lying and for providing evasive replies to the House lawmakers, and she will be detained here at the House of Representatives until she gives answers that will really actually help with their investigation. And while Harry Roque, we actually talked to him earlier today, and he was cited in contempt for not submitting the documents that they needed, like, for example, the disallowances, the ITRs that the House Committee has been requesting for since, I think, previous committees already. And he actually said that he will never attend the hearings of the Quad Committee from now on, and he will just file a complaint or a petition before the Supreme Court to question the actions of the Quad Committee. Shawn.
Maan, at this point, we're going to be seeing some salient portions of a statement that Attorney Harry Roque has sent out to the media. This is what you were saying also. Now, Attorney Roque said the House of Representatives Quad Committee's current inquiry is a political inquisition against the Duterte family and me as their outspoken ally. Obvious ang target nito. Ang dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte sa issue ng EJK, Davao City 1st District Representative Paulo Duterte at Attorney Man Scarpio, ang mister ni Vice President Inday Sara Duterte sa issue ng droga, at ako sa issue ng Pogo. Sa issue ng Pogo, malinaw na sinabi ni Cassandra Leong na hindi ako abogado ng Lucky South 99. End of story na dapat ito. Ngunit hindi pa rin tumigil ang Quadcom sa kanilang political harassment at pagpa-power trip.
At ito rin, sinasabi rin na pinasusumite sa akin ang mga personal na dokumento na wala namang kaugnayan sa Pogo. Yan ang sabi ni Atty. Harry Roque. These documents include my Statement of Assets and Liabilities from 2016 to 2022 or SALN, my and my wife's income tax returns from 2014 to 2022, our respective medical certificates, the extrajudicial settlements of the estate. And Quadcom also asked me for the transfer of shareholdings to Attorney Percival Ortega with trust agreement and related documents submitted to the Securities and Exchange Commission, the ITR of Biancham Incorporated, and the statement of Biancham's beneficial owner filed with the SEC. Dahil dito, I have decided not to appear before the Quadcom until issues that I have ventilated have been brought to the highest court for judicial determination. So Maan, just to be clear, what happens now to Attorney Harry Roque? Is he already there? And have lawmakers been told about this statement from the attorney?
We've actually sent the statement by Attorney Harry Roque to the House lawmakers, but then of course we have yet to wait for the chair to suspend the Quad Committee hearing so we can actually ask them their reactions about this statement of Harry Roque.
All right, we'll get more updates from you, Maan. Hindi pa nagtatapos dyan, and we'll keep updated with you. Maraming salamat. From the Quadcom hearing, we have our reporter, Marian Enriquez. Well, up next, a senior military official warns that China will crush any hostile foreign incursions in its sovereign territory, including those in the West Philippine Sea. We'll talk more about this with security analyst Chester Cabalsa when the big story returns. Keep it here.
Welcome back. You're still watching the big story here on One News.
Moving on over to defense. Just how true is it that Defense Secretary Gilbert Chodoro has resigned? Well, President Bongbong Marcos was asked about it in a chance interview today, and this is what he had to say.
Unang-una, sagutin ko yung tanong mo. Fake, 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 fake news. Yan.
Well, rumors of Chodoro's resignation and that more cabinet officials were set to follow had circulated on social media, mostly coming from anonymous accounts. Marcos said he and Chodoro just laughed off the rumor when he called him earlier today. The president also says there are no more changes in his cabinet, well, for now.
Kung may magbabago sa kabinete, sa pamahalaan, kami mag-a-announce. Hindi kung sino-sino man basta nag-post. Hindi sila ang mag-a-announce, walang alam yan. Kami ang mag-a-announce. Sa kasalukuyan, ngayong araw nito, walang pagbabago. Yun lang.
Press Secretary Cesar Chavez also issued a statement today and described the Chodoro rumor as pathetic attempts to sow disunity.
We're certainly going to need the defense secretary around because China says it will crush any foreign encroachment into what it sees as its sovereign territory over in the South China Sea. That came from Army Lieutenant General He Lay, a senior military official, speaking on the sidelines of the Xiangshan Defense Forum in Beijing. He said, if the United States moves its pawns behind the scenes, if it pushes countries to the front line, or if the United States finds itself, or rather, United States itself ends up on the front line, then we in the Chinese People's Liberation Army will never have any patience. He added, the Chinese People's Liberation Army will resolutely crush any foreign hostile encroachment on Chinese territorial, sovereign, and maritime rights and interests with firm determination, staunch will, strong capability, and effective means. This was relayed to a small group of media, including the newswire AFP. General He's statement comes just as the Philippines and China held another bilateral consultation mechanism meeting on tensions around Escoda Shoal. The meeting ended in a deadlock as both the Philippines and China maintained their positions. China wants immediate withdrawal of the BRP Teresa Magbanua. The Philippines wants to ease tensions with talks. Both sides, though, agreed to continue discussions.
Let's discuss this and more with security analyst Chester Cabalza, who joins the big story tonight. Magandang gabi, Chester.
Magandang gabi, Gretchen, Shawn, and Regina. Thanks for having me again.
Chester, let me repeat the statement that China will crush any foreign incursion into its sovereign territory, including in the South China Sea. Strong words from a military official from China on the heels of the 10th BCM, a bilateral consultation meeting between the Philippines and China. Is this a calculated move from China, or did that slip around? Was it an effort to show some teeth? I mean, what do you sense here?
Well, for me, it's terrifying. And at the same time, China is terrified. Let's put it into context. First off, the U.S. has signified its support to the Philippines because of the ignition of a showdown that might happen in the third hotspot in the Escoda Shoal. And we know for a fact that since the U.S. is adamant in its ironclad commitment to help the Philippines, and that's the reason why perhaps China feels that this is a red line for them, mainly because they think that first, there are many hindrances and challenges for them to get all the maritime features in the Philippines. First, the main objective there is to at least would lead them to Ayungin Shoal. And since they already have the mischief, that would be a trio for them to contain the islands and maritime features of the Philippines. Remember, the statement is very strong, but at the same time, I think China is also terrified of what might the U.S. can offer to the Philippines, because I think the U.S. is not bluffing this time around. They knew that they've been asking the Philippines to support us. It just so happened that the Philippines wanted to take the lead, and at the same time, Manila would also put into consideration its de-escalatory tactics and strategy as of the moment. I think those were the considerations. But since China couldn't get in and take what they want, I think they would use a show of force and strong words. And I think we will see more word wars coming from China this time around.
Well, Chester, since the last time we spoke, the hotspot or the flashpoint has, I mean, we know that it's the entire sea, right? But from the Ayungin Shoal, it kind of has moved to the Escoda Shoal. Hundreds and hundreds of Chinese boats, combination of CCG, militia, and even PLA Navy vessels over there. What do you make of this move to the Escoda Shoal from the Ayungin Shoal, since the Ayungin Shoal is covered by the BCMs?
Yes. You see the 1 versus 100 here that the Philippines represents to show off its bravery and courage against the armada of Chinese vessels. But going back to the question, the jumping point from Ayungin Shoal to Escoda. Remember that Escoda or Sabina Shoal is the largest reef amongst those three reefs from the ship to Ayungin to Escoda. And by invading Escoda, that would become very strategic for the China Coast Guard and People's Liberation Army Navy, mainly because it's closest to mainland Palawan. And they can use it for their anti-access area denial. Because every time we do the resupply and provisional mission, that's where our vessels would pass through. So if they can contain and lock the gates of Escoda, then definitely there would be no resupply. And that would lead to hunger and lack of supply for our marine contingent in Ayungin Shoal. And I think that would also lead to more ramming that would allow the two ships, BRP Magbanwa and BRP Sierra Madre, to sink. And perhaps the worst case scenario is to tow it. So, those are military tactics that I think China are thinking so far, because that's the easiest way for them to do. Remember, China has a weak legal approach when it comes to its claims in the South China Sea. Manila has an upper hand when it comes to legal approach. What China is doing is the right approach, showing that they can flex their military muscles, and by using the Coast Guard force, I think that is their way of convincing us to surrender our ships in those maritime features.
207 is the last count. As of last week, 207 Chinese vessels were monitored around Escoda Shoal. As Shawn said, a mix of PLA, maritime militia, and Chinese Navy boats. And we were also talking to, I know your friends too, Richard, about this. And he said the ramming incident from a few weeks ago was actually, we shouldn't see it as in such a negative light. We should actually see it as a win for the Philippines, because that means China is worried that, they might, that he saw it as a win for us in Ayungin, and their word, we might replicate it in Escoda as well. What are your thoughts? Are you kind of on the same wavelength?
That's what you said, right? You said they are terrified too, as much as we are.
But
is that
terrified
what you meant?
of what? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the pointer, because they are using force because they could not gain the trust of the international community using lawfare. And the might is right approach is something that China is using right now as a leverage to contain and get all those maritime features by the Philippines. I do agree with Richard that, of course, this is a winning sympathy for the Philippines, for our friends and allies, mainly because the more China bullies us, the more China tries to ram our vessels. I think we are getting support from the international community. I think what the Philippines is doing right now is to sustain and maintain its advocacy on rules-based norms. Remember, we cannot do the same thing with China, mainly because it's contrary to our advocacy for rules-based norms. Of course, there were debates in the defense and security sector asking our contingents to do those brazen tactics also by ramming Chinese vessels, or perhaps doing those water cannon. But we cannot do it, mainly because of our position that rules-based norms should be the norms of the world. And I think that is something that China cannot understand, because they see force as that justifies their means. Now, some observers in the region might also think that this is a weakness from the Philippines, despite the support and support from friends like the US, Australia, and Japan, that they are willing to do joint sail with us joint resupply for that matter. But right now, we are exhausting all the possibilities. In my few statements earlier, that we wanted to show to the world that we can lead, we can do it on our own. But I think the government should also reconsider the option of getting the support of our friends and allies, because of course these allies are really adamant of showing their support also for the Philippines. So let's wait and see what happens.
Right. Let me interject. Since you're already on that topic, last Friday we were we had on the show AFP spokesperson Colonel Padilla. We asked her this question, and she has said that, of course, like what you have just said, we have decided to take this on our own, that it might be viewed as escalatory if we ask for our allies for escorts. She put forward instead that maybe we can ask them for other things like more boats, because they have rammed a lot of our fleet already, and it's dwindling. I think a lot of them have to be repaired. What do you think of that? Should we be more aggressive in asking for more boats? For example, the Teresa Magbanua was from Japan.
The reason why we cannot decide yet on the joint supply or joint sale with our friends, mainly because of some legal impediments. If we look at the basis of the Mutual Defense Treaty, particularly on Articles 2, 3, and 4, where it tells that there should be consultation and the redefinition of armed attack, those are some of the things that impedes us to allow our friends to do the joint resupply or joint sale. But on the other hand, the proposition of our military spokesperson is telling that, of course, why not support us with some other military material like boats. Yes, it's necessary, but I think the problem there, if we keep on pursuing with that kind of argument, is that we become mendicants to these kinds of support. Remember that military material would be one of our best options there. But I guess what is more important here is that we are showing to the world that these kinds of irresponsible and illegal actions of China, and the world will decide out of this documentation that we are showing to them. Yes, we need military material, but at the same time, we need the support of the world in terms of addressing rules-based norms. Otherwise, China will justify this end, by showing that might is right, and the only resort would be by force, when in fact, there are other options. The best option would be diplomacy and rules-based norms.
Of course, we go back to the table. That is ultimately the best option that we have. But I'm just very, very curious if this is the first time that China used the word crush. Is that their strongest statement yet, to your memory?
Yes, I think that is the first time that China used crush, but that is also equivalent to ramming. They've been ramming us all the time, almost all of our vessels. But I guess if you try to look at it, those are acts of aggression and armed attack for a plain definition. But nonetheless, we really have to fasten also the redefinition alternative strategies on how to approach this kind of aggressive actions coming from China. Because I think this is not sustainable in terms of our military strategy. Because if China rams all our Coast Guard vessels, then it becomes a big issue for all of us. Because of course, even if we try to modernize, if they keep on destroying it, I think what remains there would be our fighting spirit.
You put it in the best way. Maraming salamat. China always operating in the gray zone. And with the Chinese Army Lieutenant General He Lei, with that statement, also operating around there. But thank you so much for your time tonight. That was security analyst Chester Cabalza weighing in with us. Meanwhile, the camp of Alice Go strongly denied allegations from the NBI that she used a body double to confuse pursuing authorities. Attorney Stephen David said, and I quote, "Napakababaw naman noon para gawin sino ba naman hindi nakakilala kay Alice Go ngayon sa panahon na to sa Pilipinas para gumamit ka ng decoy. Nakakahiya naman kung gumagamit ng decoy, ano yun, may tinatago?" Now, the photo of one of Go's employees at the municipality who allegedly resembles her in terms of build, skin tone, and even hairstyle surfaced during the last Senate hearing on Monday. Now, this was also shown to Go, and she herself confirmed that she was part of her staff. The NBI has also been searching for the alleged decoy of the dismissed Banban mayor. They suspect it could have been her body double who had the counter affidavit notarized in Bulacan on August 14. The Presidential Anti-Organized Crime Commission, meanwhile, has reportedly gathered information on the whereabouts of Go's business partner, Huang Qiyang. The Chinese national is said to be currently in Hong Kong, but he was first monitored in Taiwan. When Senator Jingo Estrada was asked if Huang helped Alice escape from the Philippines, he did not directly confirm it. However, the PAOK pointed to Huang with certainty based on Estrada's description during the hearing.
Ang pinangalanan niya na di umano tumulong sa kanya at nagbabanta sa kanya ay nabigyan tayo ng clue ni Senator Estrada. Ito daw po ay nasa Taiwan. At ito daw po ay mayroon ng 5 pasaporte. Sa aming investigasyon, isang tao lamang ang nagpipit ng profile na yan. At yan ay si Wang Zhiyang.
This very high-profile case starring Alice Go has raised a lot of questions about gaps and vulnerabilities in our border policy. Senator Raffy Tulfo, who's the chair of the Senate Committee on Public Services, pointed out a few at today's hearing.
Ang daming butas. So you don't do physical inspection. E paano kung may nagtago doon sa engine room? Ang dideklara lang 20 o 20 kaming crew. And then yung pala may 50 ang nagtago doon sa engine room. Lusot sila.
Wala po kaming presence 24/7 sa port.
Exactly. Again, doon natin nakita yung vulnerability ninyo. Kasi nga po, ma'am, sa Zambales, maging dyan sa Manila Bay, dito malapit lang sa amin. Dyan sa dating Sofitel, may kita yung dating dredging vessels dyan. Bumababa yung mga Chinese para magpasyal, para mamalengke, para kung saan-saan silang gumala. So, how would we know kung sila ay babalik pa o hindi?
Senator Tulfo had previously called it a, quote, immigration crisis. He wants government to revisit its border control policies, especially for chartered planes. At today's hearing, Tulfo called out port officials for not thoroughly inspecting all boats and relying on passenger manifestos. He also scolded them for not screening luggages.
Paano kung punong-punoy ng cocaine at shabu?
Your Honor, pag mga ganun po kasi, based na dun sa human intelligence po yun, Your Honor, kung...
No. Tinuturo mo agad yung responsibility nyo sa ibang ahensya na dapat in-inspect niyo yung luggage. Kasi sabi mo, wala nang inspection pag personal luggage. Tinitingnan niyo lang yung barko kung meron dapat mga bagay doon na taxable or kailangan magbayad ng duties. Hindi mo na in-inspection yung mga maleta. Now, paano nga kung merong bomba doon, may baril doon, o merong shabu o cocaine doon? Lusot na.
An alleged victim of illegal recruitment detailed to the senators today how she was smuggled out. She said from Manila, she traveled to Zamboanga, passing through NAIA Terminal 2. From Zamboanga, she made her way to Tawi-Tawi. There, she met with her contact before boarding another boat in Sitangkay, which is in the southernmost part of the Philippines near Malaysia. After another boat transfer, the trafficking victim and her group arrived in Sabah. Tulfo now wants officials to thoroughly screen all passengers and personal luggages at all seaports, but the Coast Guard says this isn't possible.
Kung gusto man namin na matagalan, ang per ora po kasi ng barko para po from yan po ay pilot area hanggang makarating sa port po para dumikit, mabilisan po talaga, Your Honor. That's international practice po talaga. Kasi po kailangan ibaba ang pasahero if it's a passenger vessel. Cargo has to be unloaded and new cargos have to be loaded. Mabilisan po talaga.
Okay, we've just about run out of time, but on a different topic, it's time for our big picture for tonight, and this is some good news. We have this photo of our 6 Paralympians at Malacanang Palace. In a ceremony held earlier today, President Bongbong Marcos recognized the remarkable achievements of the Paralympians who competed in the Paris 2024 Paralympic Games. Joined by First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos and the First Family, the President awarded each of the 6 Paralympians a 1 million peso cash incentive and a presidential citation for their exceptional performances. The Paralympians were composed of javelin thrower Sandy Asusano, archer Agustina Bantilok, Taekwondo Jin Alain Ganapin, swimmers Ernie Gawilan and Angel Autumn, and wheelchair racer Gerald Mangliwan.
Well-deserved cash prize for them. I mean, to get to the Olympics is a feat, but it is also very expensive. Considering all the expenses during training and all
and
the time
imagine how much harder everything is when you're differently abled.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, our regular athletes already have so much trouble raising funds, getting the kind of training they need. How much more for the Paralympians, right? Who don't get quite enough attention. So, you wanted to end on that, but I wanted to end on another good note, which is that Pope Francis is in Singapore.
Yes, he is.
And he gave a speech today advocating for fair wages for migrant workers. And guess who's one of the biggest population migrant workers there? Exactly. So he said, and I quote, "I hope that special attention will be paid to the poor and the elderly, as well as to protecting the dignity of migrant workers." And so I hope that really, makes a dent.
At first, I kind of felt bad that he wasn't passing through the Philippines because most popes pass through here. But
a lot of people were asking that. Why wouldn't he swing through
Because
Philippines?
his theme for the Southeast Asian trip is interfaith cooperation and respect.
That's why Indonesia.
Yes.
Right. That's why Timor-Leste.
Yes.
That's why Singapore. Right, right.
Maraming mga Pilipino sa Singapore. I'm actually on my way there tomorrow for FIBA in Hall of Fame.
Okay, well maybe you can still catch us.
I was like, what? I was gonna say, okay, just eat all the yummy food for me.
Maybe you can try to ambush him.
Pope Francis.
That might not be a great idea.
Ambush interview. Just to clarify, ambush interview, not ambush. But ambush interview him about, what he said about migrant workers.
And that is the importance of not forgetting a word in your sentence.
But good news, nevertheless.
Yes, very, very good news. On that note, that is it for the big story tonight.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night.